Okay, so I stopped in the previous video when I was talking about my experience at Vermont Law School, but I must go backwards one time, the LSAT. Um, I studied for the LSAT. I actually paid money for a course. I paid for test masters, and I also bought books with Power Score. But I feel like that particular course was not for me because that course is really geared for people that are already scoring in, I guess, the 155s on up, and they just really need that extra boost to get them to 170 or better. So for me, that course is more advanced. And I probably should have started with, say, Kaplan or Princeton Review. So I didn't score the best on the LSAT. But at the same time, I was not willing to go back through the process of, restudying and retaking the test. I said, I'm just going to have to work with my scores. So I was like, no, I'm not, doing that again. But the idea is to, study well for it and do it one time. I was satisfied with my preparation. I don't know why. I guess, I succumbed to the stress of everything, taking that test around the same time after my finals. So that could have been part of it. I was exhausted. But, it's very expensive. Like, you have to be really ready. And I know, as an African American, I didn't have the money, and I'm not trying to say African Americans don't have the money. I'm just talking about as an African American student from a single parent household, you know, I didn't have anybody I can call to help me pay for this course. Just like I didn't have anybody to call to help me pay for some of the applications for my, for law school, even though I got mostly fee waivers, some schools did not offer me a fee waiver. So I still had to pay for those out of pocket. So a lot of those things, you have to be prepared for financially. So if you're working, save it up. I saved up a lot of my checks from work study. I also, sacrificed some of my loans, towards it. So you just do what you have to do in order to get what you need to get done. So going backwards though, don't let your score deter you either. My score, I was really like, oh my goodness, no school will ever accept me. And I got a lot of rejections. I mean, I'm not going to lie. My profile is still up on SLN, so you can see it for yourself. I got a lot of rejections before I started getting some acceptances. And despite that, I was still able to transfer. So your score, you know, it is important. I'm not going to downplay the score. A lot of schools overly rely on score, and that unfortunately it kind of hurts some minorities' chances of getting into school. Like there was an article out last year that talked about how the number of African Americans and Mexican American students going to law school has gone down over the past few years. It has been decreasing. The law schools have becoming increasingly more white. So we need to, do what we need to do. Don't let money stop you. Don't let that be the reason, that stopped you. Don't let your LSAT score, if you don't score as well as you wanted to, don't let that stop you. I still sent all my applications out. And I even helped one of my good friends who, same thing, he didn't have the best score, didn't get into many schools. Second time around, he reapplied, got into a lot more schools. And he's got into good schools at that. Good schools. So don't let that deter you. Okay, but experience at Vermont. Yeah, the school was excellent. I think it gave me an excellent legal foundation. But the thing is, I couldn't live there. So I was looking for another school, and then they had a heavy environmental focus. I thought I was interested in environmental law, but at the same time, I wasn't sure. It's not necessarily important that you know exactly what you want to be, or what you want to do when you go to law school. You have so many different areas that you probably haven't even thought of, haven't had exposure to. So it's good if you have an idea of what you want to be, prior to law school. You can definitely use that to write about in your personal application, personal statement, but it's not imperative. So once I got there and learned that, okay, they use a lot of their resources for their environmental program, but not, but the other programs are, I wanted to, go to another school where they have just as a strong focus, just like, they had on environmental. I wanted, to go to a school that really invested in that program that I was interested in, which is intellectual property. So that's why I transferred to this school in California, Santa Clara. So transferring, you don't want to have to plan a transfer. I know some law school applicants, they kind of game on the idea as, okay, they don't have the best grades, or they may not have the highest LSAT, so they're not getting into the schools that they want to get into, but they think that, okay, I can, spend a year there and then transfer. I can do well enough and transfer. Don't bank on that. Transferring is a very interesting and secret process. You're not going to find a lot of information out there. You will find information about transferring, but a lot of it is kind of skewed for individuals that probably were top 10% of their class. I wasn't top 10% of my class when I transferred. I wasn't nowhere near top 10% and I still transferred. So, yeah, some of the information out there is very skewed in one direction. We don't have enough people talking about who maybe weren't top 10%, but still was able to successfully transfer to another school, even higher up in ranking. So now my new school, much more diverse. Very happy about that. But I still find myself as being like the only African American student in my class. I experienced that at my old school too, except for one class where there was another young lady in the class with me, and we were just two. But that was a large class, and 2 out of 80 students. Yeah. So for the most part, I am the only African American, and as you can see, I have locks. So I was worried for a moment about how that would, play out, especially in interviewing for summer internships. I just interviewed last Friday, second round, mind you, not just first, second round, for these law firms working maybe in their intellectual property departments. I don't think my hair was an issue. Now when I go to interviews, I naturally like to pull my hair back anyway. Like I'll pull it back. I might put a basket weave in, or I might do one of these numbers. This is my favorite number here. Just tie it up, boom. It's out of your face. It looks professional. I mean, this is just a little rough looking. I do it a lot better than this, but this is the idea, is to pull it back so they can see your face. They're not really concentrating on your hair, because I know the way my hair was curled last week, it was just so many curls. It could have been very distracting. Definitely wouldn't have never worn these earrings. But, I don't want them to pay attention to everything going on up here. I want them to be, dead on here, at my eyes, looking at me directly and speaking to me directly. So, but being an African American, in law school, where both law schools don't have that much African Americans, I was a little shocked. Even though my new school is very diverse, I was expecting to see more African American students. But being the only one in class, I haven't been placed in a token situation, which I've been happy about. None of my classes, professors have asked me as the spokesperson to speak about anything, which is good. But I also noticed that I feel like I get passed over. Now, that could be because I speak a lot. Now, I'm one of those persons that always just, always raising my hand, got to, answer something. But, I think also to avoid a situation like that, some professors don't even call on me out of the blue. They don't cold call me for anything, or they don't, they don't just, they don't pick on me like they do other students. And I think they avoid that because I'm the only one in the class. So they may feel that if they picked on me one day, like they do everybody else, for some reason that might play out a different way, which I don't think so. I'm there too. I pay my tuition just like everybody else. If this professor is known as a hard ass and he's a hard ass on everybody else, he needs to be a hard ass on me too. That's the only way that I can learn and be a better lawyer myself. So, I noticed, things, people avoid having certain conversations with me. And it is kind of, disheartening when I try to explain, how sometimes I've been, isolated. Study groups, my study groups at my new school is much better than my old school. My old school, it was just, but having students of color, even pass me up for study groups. Like I've had that happen at my old law school, so just, I guess, the point is, just because, there are other black law students around, you can't really embrace the idea that they may be looking out for you at the end of the day. Like, at the end of the day, I mean, you're there to get your education, and the friends and things that you make along the way is great, but you can't really expect that. And that's one thing I had to learn, because when I didn't see it, I was bothered by it. But we need more African Americans in law school, and it is my hope that I can help get as many as I can in. So I'm glad you posted this question. I hope this was helpful.